Okay, let's see. It seems to go a bit better. Maybe it was OBS playing up as usual. Apologies for that. So I guess we'll have to split this in two again. So yeah, I don't know how to mash streams together. So yeah, apologies for the technical difficulties. You know, it's kind of like I'm not a professional streamer. I'm just here for the fun. So, so where were we? So yeah, so we finished the daily commissions. Okay, so damn it, it's not going to be a perfect resin thing. I really hate it when it happens. Okay. Okay, let's see. So that's one thing done.
Add Astra.
So
Thank you for
let's see.
Add Astra.
Let's get ourselves the expedition things. Visual. Bennett. You're probably thinking, considering how Genshin players work, I guess. You're probably thinking why I was complaining about pyro characters, and then you're like, but you do have Bennett, and it's like, yeah, but I never managed to, you know, I'm not really interested in. His gameplay is not really my thing. I mean, if I were pressed enough, then sure I would build Bennett, but right now it's not my priority, you know. So yeah, so it's not like that. I think it's like I think about, I don't know. I have a weird relationship with pyro characters. It's strange. Anyways, so that's with the we're done with the commissions. So now it would be about burning resin, and I don't really know what I need. Let me check. Well, I do need.
Where's my key? Not again.
Pat, cabin. So I need more books. That's for sure. I don't know what I need for. Yeah, I have to farm stupid fungus because I need that for both Nilu and Baiju. Woe is me. Okay. Aside from that, I do have them fairly for the next friendship level. Yeah, it's level 4. Okay, yeah. It's about to pour. It's about to pour. Yeah, it's pouring. That's great weather for you, Kabe.
When did it start to rain? Oh no, I forgot to bring an umbrella.
What do you not forget about Kabe? That's actually a miracle that you actually managed to survive on your own. Then again, I guess Kabe really doesn't survive on his own, kind of. Oh.
I get dizzy and sleepy when I'm under the sun for too long. It's a similar feeling to pulling an all-nighter on a work project.
See, here I do relate to him because my life is about all-nighters because, yeah, it's my circadian rhythms are basically really screwed up. I mean, I'm also an artist, so I do relate to Kabe. I think I mentioned this at some point. I do relate to Kabe in some things. I mostly relate to Alhaitham because I'm an odd breed of artistry. I'm a rabid pragmatic, but I do have that sense of artistry on me. So that I do relate when to Kabe. And actually, yesterday I was coming back from visiting my parents. I was on the train, and it was very cloudy, kind of stormy, and I spent basically most of the trip looking out of the window at the clouds, like thinking, "Wow, that's a real." Basically, no, great.
Scanning.
Basically, thinking on how I would
Sight
draw.
clear.
Oh, okay.
This is incredible. No, extraordinary.
That's another thing I actually. I'm a sucker for Alhaitham's, basically. Huh. When he's. Or calling you out with his trademark snark. When you open a chest. And it's like, I have a soft spot for that. But it's undeniable that Kabe's enthusiasm is contagious. It's really great. And it's a really nice change of pace. Not just like for my playstyle, not just changing the pace on going from spread aggravate, which is a very aggressive playstyle, to the more it's more to the more damn it to to the planning and everything bloom.
A new discovery.
The whole thing about positioning and stuff, planning and great.
Here.
Okay, so come
Scanning.
here. That's going to be boom, bloom without the L. Yeah, Kabe and Nilu is basically a killer combo. So, what I was going to say? I was going to say maybe I can elaborate on a bit of lore. I know I get distracted easily, so I don't know if I should go walk around or stay in one place, because if I'm fighting some boss, I know I'm going to be unable to elaborate on stuff. So, yeah. If I'm fighting and stuff, I know I'm going to lose track of what I'm saying. But I mean, I guess that's I have to deal with that. So I'm going to check for the fungi first. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to farm a bit of fungus powder. This team is great for that because the annoying thing with the fungi that if you attack them with pyro or electro, they instead drop another thing. And I want the dust. And in that regard, the Bloom team is great because good reactions, but doesn't trigger the alteration. So yeah. So it's great. This team is actually great for farming for fungi, considering that three of them needed the the dust.
Gotcha.
I still have to get the hang on Yolan's. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So that was a great one. So, Baiju.
This is nothing.
Okay, that's one. That's going to be 2. In a moment. Oh, survived. Okay, no longer survived. Okay, Yalan.
Quietly now.
The doctor will see you now. Positions.
I don't actually need Lu to do that, but I want the Bloom to, yeah, do that. Oh, great. Unexpected guests. Okay, fine by me.
Sight clear.
Well, not bad. Okay, let's get ourselves some stuff. So yeah, I was now that I have Soroush with me, I'm still working on the party quests, but there's something interesting. I haven't done the Aranara quests. That's I need to take one day and go through the entire thing in peace, because I am to understand that it's actually pretty damn long. But but I mean, with Nahida's second story quest, I got a bit more insight on the Aranara, and I've read about them. So I was comparing them with the party and the whole order of the order of skeptics in that part of the desert. And there's this whole thing about the order of the skeptics and the party and the relevance they place on what they call, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, their Yasnapati, which is basically their scribe. Basically someone who records... Oh, nice. So basically someone who records your deeds. Since the party's culture is a bit of... I mean, at least Soroush's views are more about... the point I mean on the party quest, Soroush is really keen on sacrificing herself. And there's a bit of... And the point I reach with some other party, when it doesn't matter if you remember or not, since everything fades in the end. And it reminds me of... I had to wonder, you know, I had this thing, this thought, because a lot of 3.6 is about conflicting, opposing ideals and forms of viewing the world, you know? And of course, Alhaitham and Kava represent that, but I was seeing that on the discussion on the, you know, the Winnow event with the Ksharwar and Amorta academics, squabbling and stuff. This was kind of an idle random thought, but I was thinking as I was doing the party quest, the philosophy of the party kind of and their customs, or at least the order for skeptics or whatever, it kind of reminds me of Alhaitham's Stoic philosophy, and the whole thing about remembrance, recording, and the whole thing about the scribes, of course, the Yasnapati being basically your personal deed recording scribe. So I was venturing, maybe the party are meant to represent Alhaitham and the Aranara represent Kave. Even though I think the Aranara also have the saying that even though you fade away, the forest remembers, which is basically that everything, even if you're gone, you're still part of life as a whole. I don't know. That also aligns with Alhaitham's philosophy. So I'm not sure. I would have to likely play the Aranara quest before saying anything more than just an idle thought. I'm just thinking that just simply because being both of like these kind of creatures, you know?
Yep.
And I think there's also the fact that they are... I mean, I kind of related, kind of connected the thing because the Aranara do remember having met the sibling, the twin, the traveler's twin. And there's a fair share of resemblances between Kave and the traveler and the twins, basically. I mean, if you want to know more about that, I think... so, there's Ashikai's video on Who's the Sinner, and she explains a bit about why... So this is... why Kave is actually... You know, the whole fanon thing about Alhaitham being a representation, reincarnation, whatever, of King Deshret. And after, I mean, at first I listened to them, I checked them, the reasonings, and I was like, I mean, it could. I feel like it feels a bit like a stretch in some points, but maybe it could. But then after just going a bit further, and then there was this Ashikai analysis and on Kabe instead, and I was like, yeah, actually, the fingers point more about Kabe for being any sort of King Deshret representation. Not saying that he's anything, just saying that in terms of let's call it lore rhyming with itself, in which you have like an important trio, and but don't get this as if because here's the thing. It would be history. Lore rhyming with itself doesn't mean necessarily that things play exactly the same as it's just that there's some I don't know the word, the echoing, but it's not necessarily the same. It's like you have this thing, and this other thing echoes the previous thing, but the result is not the same. Elsewise, it would be a cycle, it would be a constant loop. And I think that would defy the point of Genshin, the way I'm understanding Genshin lore, in the sense that we're kind of trying to break this sort of endless cycle as introduced by the Samsara. So yeah. So that's one thing. That's why I think that's when people kind of latch on. So this is the same thing, and it's like I don't think it would defy the point. Like in a sense, like if you want to settle, like if you have kind of like set the basis that a part of Genshin's lore involves a cycle, then yes, it would be certainly part of the story. But you're looking at the foundations and not the outcome. It's like same foundation, different conclusion, which is, I mean, it's basically the whole point. So yeah. So
The doctor will see you now.
even if this would be a representation of the same, the whole trio, it was King Deshret, Nabu Malikata, and Ruka Devata, I don't think it would manifest or have the same outcome necessarily as, I mean, it could, but I don't really think that would be the case. And no, I mean, I've seen people. So allow me to rant for a moment. I've seen people say about, so Kabe may be the reincarnation of the goddess of flowers, since people always try to. I don't know. I don't get it. It's like using lore to justify. I'll say it plain. Using lore to justify. Better said. Twisting lore to justify your justify shipping is one of the most, from my opinion, abject things you can actually do. I'm a lore diver. I take lore seriously, and I'm not one to question someone else's way of having fun. But the problem is, if you're just having fun, that's alright, that's fine by me, as long as you're aware that all you're doing is having fun, you're playing up the tropes, okay, that's fine. But there's this thing, and there's a whole, I think I actually ranted about this at some other point. There's a whole different thing on taking lore and trying to twist it, not just to adapt to your own headcanon, but also trying to pass it as the real deal, as canon, as to not you're first. If you're doing that, you're not interested in the lore. You're just interested in supporting your own fantasies, and that's that. And second, it's anyone who knows their facts. It's so easy to go check and debunk you, and you're going to look double stupid. And not just you're not making a fool of yourself, but you're also it's not the best thing you can do. I mean, in when it comes to fandoms, it's like there's this whole fanfiction tradition of alternate universes and all that stuff, and I'm not really a big fan of alternate universes. Sometimes I may indulge into this could play up in some other setting, but fanfiction has come to be largely associated with shipping, and I'm not like I said, I'm not a fan of shipping. Especially shipping culture. With this, I think there should be a difference between shipping and shipping culture. That's a whole different thing. And I have always been separated from this sort of, since I kind of lurk in my corner and mind my own business. And when I started venturing a bit into the Genshin lore and characters, and I was faced with fandom drama, mostly over shipping, and it's like it's baffling to me. Like, the game has, aside from the fact that I really don't understand the need for match everyone and pair everyone up, like devaluing, like it's this conception of platonic relationships being lesser than romance, and it's like, no, it's like friendship and bonds that rely on trust and care. That's the basis for romance. So romance is just a consequence. The core thing that really matters is the bonds. And if you want to later interpret like the potential of something like as in shipping, then go ahead, like fine, as long as you don't twist canon, that's fine by me. But I don't really understand this whole thing, and I think Genshin suffers a lot. I mean, every fandom does, but Genshin and this kind of games suffer a lot from this sort of mentality that immediately you see a pair of characters, and they immediately have to be romantically involved, and it's like, why? Don't you ever never had a best friend or something? I don't know. Like, since we're in Sumeru, and go get. I'm not. I like I said. I think I said this at some point. I'm not the most proper person to say this to anyone, but like, go outside and touch some grass. It's like. Yeah, I don't really understand that. I'm weird, so yeah. Probably some other people could explain the appeal to me, because I absolutely failed to.
Busted.
Sure, there's some dynamics that, in terms of relationship, I do like. I'm not denying that myself, because I know that someone may come to me and call me a hypocrite, and I'm like, no, I have my preferences, I may taste this, but what is undeniable is that I'm very, my criteria as to why I would ship something relies not just, hey, it looks good, or hey, this character interacted with this character, but if there's a potential dynamic that I see as really, there are solid grounds for something more, and not every dynamic has that. I think But I mean, of course, this is going a bit hard on the narrative deal on my trade, quote unquote, as a lore diver, since I take this sort of thing quite seriously, and someone would say that I'm a party ruiner, so to speak. I come to ruin the fun. Well, maybe that's the case, but I take my work seriously, and my work ethic even more. So yeah, it's kind of please don't take it. Don't take me as me judging you for shipping anything. It's just that it's less about the concept of shipping and the shippers themselves, as usual. Usually, the thing itself usually is innocent and just has the potential for something. It's the people who ruin it. It's
The doctor will see you.
this usually happens.
Sight clear.
So yeah. I don't really want to start throwing shade, but it's not my place to throw shade. But, yeah. So it's mostly throwing shade about the fandom, not yeah. I don't really want to dig myself up. A grave, but to be fair, I mean, there's this whole thing about fearing. There's as of in recent times, there's been this fear of saying something quote unquote controversial, and being cancelled. And I can tell you that I don't fear any of these things. Like, you're not going to stop me from saying and stating what I think. And if I think that's something stupid, you will have me not telling you to the face that you're stupid. I will probably be a bit more elegant than that, but I will certainly think so. And if I get pissed off enough, then I will certainly not doubt to say so aloud. Not seeking humiliation, just calling something out. And well, yeah, some people say it. Yeah, there's this whole thing about not being offensive, and I agree. You don't have to be needlessly offensive,
Mind the side effects.
but you can't please everyone. It's like it reminds me of Al-Haytham's line in the later parts of the event, and his conclusion that if you want to achieve your goals or be yourself or whatever, it applies to anything that way. Oh, okay. If you want to achieve your goals, then you have to be prepared to make enemies along the way, and I completely agree. You can't please everybody. You can't avoid offending people, and because if you want to achieve your goals, you're going to. I hate when this happens. You're going to,
With all my strength.
like, if you're fighting for, like, for example, getting a job, you're going to be taking someone else's position, and they may have the same right to claim it, or the same qualifications, and even more. But it's your life, and you're going to be fighting for your future, and for your freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of whatever you want to do with your life, as long as you don't trample on someone else's dignity, honor, rights, whatever. I'm a firm believer in freedom of everything, as long as you don't trample someone else's. But then again, the boundaries are kind of fuzzy there, because where exactly someone else's freedom starts in respect towards you, and what exactly constitutes freedom of. Because I have the right to be blunt, and you have the right to be offended, but should your right to be offended preclude me from my right of speaking my mind. That's I don't believe that's the case. Of course, this is a kind of a moral debate that's been going on for a long time. Basically, I think my personal take is like when it comes to personal expression, there should be no ban, like in when it comes to expression like humor, comedy, art, there should be no censorship at all. Like, you speak your mind, and some people would agree with that, and some others won't. And maybe what you're saying is negative, but if you don't have that, then you can't have then you can have the opposite side noting or rising. It's like, it's complex. I know it's kind of making a mess. It's just that I really love the concept of moral debate and you know, the whole thing of freedom of expression in any form of shape. And I think both language and art, if we're going to relate this to Kabe and Haytham in terms of art and language, I'm a stalwart defender of absolute freedom, because when you say something, like for example, if in Twitter is always is a hellhole, but in Twitter, you tweet something that you write something from your mind, okay, and then someone rushes in, uncalled, absolutely uncalled. The tweet was not aimed at them in any way or shape, and they tell you that they're offended by your opinion and that you should be delete it or taken it, or the thing, or you should be cancelled, as you put it. So it's like, it's not my problem that you felt attacked, between quotes, because I wasn't talking to you directly, so I'm free to say whatever the hell I want, because I am exerting my right to speak my mind, my freedom of speech and opinion. So if you don't like it, it's very simple. You keep scrolling down and mind your own business. Because in this life, you're not going to find everything playing up to please you. Quite the contrary. So it's best that you learn to deal with this sort of thing. I mean, that's actually part of the event. You can really. That's actually something Al Haytham talks about in the later part of the event. Like, I always love Al Haytham's insight. Like, when I say his life philosophy really appeals to me, it's because I really agree with his point of view.
Quiet now.
And I that's not to say I don't agree with Kabe, for example, but I think people misinterpret.
My balance.
I think people misinterpret Kabe a lot. Like, he's also a very
This is nothing.
I'm kind of getting distracted here. Kabe is also someone who does things the way he wants to do, regardless of the consequences and opinions be damned. Even though he cares about opinion, but in the end, he's going to do what he thinks he has to do. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to live with himself, and that's exactly the point, because of the event. That's basically what Al-Haytham wanted to. Well, yeah, it was trying to teach, and then again, Kabe kind of reached this conclusion himself through a bit of Alhaitham's guidance, since like he basically plays as like I said, he basically plays as his counselor, therapist, whatever you want to call it. Alhaitham is this kind of figure of wisdom that advises you. It's like the voice of logic advising you how to proceed. And then you may choose or not if you want to proceed that way. He's basically offering you the inputs, and then if you go through it, then fine. If you don't, it's not his problem, you know. So, but yeah, and if the thing with the event, basically, I'm going to pull up since we're talking about the boys. The thing about the event was basically it was really interesting. In terms of I really want, like, I think I mentioned this before, but we got the entire Archon quest to get to know Alhaitham as a character on his own, interacting with Dia, Sino in particular, and the Traveler, of course. I really hate it when people just reduce his character to Kabe. Yeah, Kabe completes the character in the sense of, yeah, it's part of the background. You get to further understand the character, but Alhaitham stood perfectly on his own as a character throughout the Archon quest, even though even not having Kabe around at all. And Kabe suffered the other way around because he was introduced as Alhaitham's roommate, not as the architect, Light of the Ksharwar, and stuff. So he kind of got the short end of the stick there, like from that moment onwards, and the fandom being fandom, he was subsequently reduced to Alhaitham's roommate, and he's way more than just that. They're friends, of course. They're extremely interesting in terms of what they embody, what they represent, the clashing ideals, and the middle ground respect, because that's the core of that's the core of their dynamic. It's like they're it's like it's this thing about being so in the extremes that they're kind of touch in that sense, but it's not the. I know people would argue that I don't want to make it sound like ship fuel, because it's absolutely it's completely the contrary. That sort of dynamic doesn't work in terms of, man, you can make it work, but depends if you make the narrative yourself. Yes, you can make it work, but if you're working with someone else's narrative, not intended to be read as such, that's that sort of extreme polar opposites touching in the sense of respect. That's not going to work. It's going to be very likely very toxic if it wasn't the intended intention. There's, I think at least there's some sense of awareness in the fandom that, yeah, their relationship would be extremely toxic and not healthy at all. I mean, if you want drama, fine by me, but that's not realistic. That wouldn't work, basically. Keep it to your fantasies, I guess. But anyways, I ramble again. So what I was saying, because they're basically, there's going to be always a rift, an unbridgeable rift between, in this case, Alhaitham and Kabe, basically because they're the opposites. But that's also the point of connection. It's like, as the character stories say, it's like the two sides of a mirror, the two sides of a coin. Like, they won't ever touch, but they're bound by the rift. It's kind of it's a really, really complex the dynamic. It's really interesting, and I find me that much more interested than any shallow romance trope. I'm sorry. I guess you can tell that I'm kind of pissed at some portion of the fandom's. Let's say, it's not even the interpretation that bugs me. It's the need for shoving it down your throat at every chance, when it's just an interpretation. And yeah, that rubs me the wrong way. But anyways, but in terms of character and dynamics, they are extremely interesting. They have so many layers of depth in their own characters as themselves and in their dynamic together. That's really great, and I'm really fascinated by that. I adore both of their characters. I see myself a bit in both of them. That's more in Ohitham than Kabe, but I do have my yeah. So I have that. So I was thinking of that, and I actually went on a ramble about the boys, and then I lost my place. What was I discussing again? I forgot. Sorry, sometimes I just get sidetracked. See, this is why I don't like. This is why I know by trying to write any sort of script for my lore thoughts would be absurd, because everything is important to me. Like, there's no way I see something and I immediately draw a connection, and it's like everything's important, so I can't really stick to one topic. So yeah, let's cut the discussion about this for now. So what I wanted to talk, so I wanted to go about. So I still have to give more thoughts on the titles for the quest names for the event. I'm thinking on what it may. I mean, this event was really interesting lore-wise, and so this thing I have to give more thought. Probably rewatch the entire event and muse on these things. Yeah, because I think they may be applying to really interesting things. So yeah, I know that's vague. It's just that when I'm not sure about my conclusions, I don't really want to put my foot in my mouth. So yeah, let's go into the thing about the Darshans. So here's the thing. It's interesting that there's 6 Darshans. The number 7 is something important in Genshin Impact. 7 elements, 7 archons, 7. There's theories about 7 other things, but I don't really want to go right now into theories. And here we have 7. We have, technically there are 7 Darshans in depicted on the story, since the Order of Skeptics would be the Lost Darshan. But let's not go into the Order of Skeptics right now. It's interesting though that because right now we have this and we have the whole thing with the party, and if you check the crown, I don't actually remember the name of what it's called, with that grown Sorus's head as a bloom guard, heavily resembles the diadem of knowledge. So if you may understand the Order of Skeptics as, or the party as, some sort of crown, because it really resembles the shape. Like I could, but so I don't really believe in coincidences in terms of certain designs. So yeah, having this here is really interesting. Not exactly the same shape, but close enough. But anyways, aside from that, I was going the diadem of knowledge. So you could understand the diadem of knowledge being the source of like the ultimate knowledge, from this sourcing the rest of the darshans, right? So the thing is that what we have here is, in another sense, a visual representation of the world and the layering of the world. It's fitting with the dendro theme of Sumeru. It's depicted as a tree, and it would may bring to mind the depictions of the world tree Yggdrasil in Norse mythology. Which, by the way, there's some theory crafters like Way. I don't know. You can check for Way in I think it was his latest video, in which he explained a bit of how the world tree is so important to Genshin, aside from there's the fact of Irminsul, of course. What gave me the clue, in particular for this, that realizing that this is shaped like a flat representation of the layers of the world, as in the world tree, was Haravatat. Because if you... thank you, Haravatat, for being the best Darshan, as always. Because if you check here, that's the roots, basically. Yeah? You can see the roots here. So... basically, you have the roots here in Haravatat. These would be the two branches. It would be the canopy and the sky, and this would be like the soil. This would be the layer of the soil made by Spantamat and Bahumana. The branches would be Amurta and Ksharawar, and the canopy would be the sky. Would be fittingly Rtauhist. So. How can you understand this? The disposition form a hexagon. It's exact. See, it's like I'm using the cursor to exemplify this. The shape is a hexagon. A hexagon. If you connect if you connect the hexagon this way, otherwise you could connect them as a six-pointed star made of two intertwined, superposed triangles with the center being like, This is another disposition. I'm not sure. So if you want to look up the symbolism of hexagons or the six pointed star, like one of them is the Star of David. Which the Star of David is like the symbol of Judaism. And it's also a symbol of basically the world and God. Superposing male and female in one single entity, because, inverted triangle, female, normal triangle, male. That's likely one of the most, probably one of the most ancient symbols in the world. The inverted triangle symbolizing the womb, and the normal triangle symbolizing. Yeah, well, you can imagine what symbolizes in male when it applies to male and female. There. I don't really need to explain that, right? So it's interesting because that's basically. In terms of composition, basically, these 2 points are like the most opposed, but there's always some sort of connection. If you can either draw a line connecting them. So what would we take him from here? So it's not always opposition, but sometimes. So here's the thing. When it comes to here and there, I mean upwards, down, above and below, that's a direct opposition, though it's a connection as well. As for in the diagonals, it usually means this leads to this, or this is connected to this, in a sense. Even though at the same time they're like in opposition, but less in opposition than above and below. It's kind of a bit of a mess. I'm trying to explain, and my yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. So I think it's better that I explain this in a more simplified way. Like, for example, you have the sky here in Retawist. You have the beneath the soil in beneath the earth in Haravatat, right? So you have Spantamad here, like it's interesting as if like with the color, like what exactly Spantamad represents. Well, by the color and the art, it reminds me of lava, fire, and it's right below Morta, which is green, life, forest, and it's kind of like not exactly an opposite, but in a sense, I guess it could be. Bahumana is desert, sand, soil, plain soil, and then we have Ksharwar and an architecture building, building of cities and stuff. In contraposition of a barren soil, you have the construction here. Also, of course, barren soil contradicts, opposes the green. Barren soil of Bahumana contradicts the greenery of Amorta, and primordial lava contradicts the crafting of Ksharwar. But at the same time, so Spantamad is kind of. So Spantamad is about elementalism. It's basically chemistry. If you understand chemistry as chemical reactions and as elemental reactions, chemistry is necessary for any sort of crafting, any sort of the shaping of matter. And so, in this sense, if you take and if you take this as lava, if you recall, lava does solidify into something more tangible, so to speak, and it's basically molten rock. So if you take molten rock and you solidify it, then you will get the block, if you want the building block, pun kind of intended, for architecture and Ksharwar. So without this, you wouldn't have this, basically. Without the soil, barren soil in this case, there would be no ground no ground for plants to grow and life to thrive, and they would have a Murta, the greenery beneath which is Bahumana. Amorta is biology, and Bahumana is etiology. Basically, history. So, here's the thing. Etiology is not about... Bahumana does encompass human society and history and anthropology, but it's just one of the things they research. Etiology means the origin of things, basically, where something begins, and it's basically another building block, if you want to, or the clean slate. Without that, you wouldn't have life, as in Amorta, basically biology, medicine, all the botanics, all that sort of stuff. And basically, the history of the world is reflected in the life. Not just there's a difference between Ksharwar, which is basically human, is strictly human, and this is strictly life this is basically architecture and human history. The shareware is a result of human intervention. Life, not really. like there's the difference between life as a whole, which doesn't have any sort of regards for a human being special, and then shareware being an expression of humanity in a sense, since architecture is an expression, is purely human. Bahumana is not purely human, though most of what we see in Bahumana depicted in the event is about human history. But it doesn't necessarily has to be. It can be also the story of the world itself, even though it's kind of, sometimes it's kind of, Spantamat is the one who kind of brings the history of the world in a sense, in the terms of how it came to be, since ley lines, chemistry stuff. It's kind of complicated. They're kind of, I mean, see, they're intertwined, so you can't really take one darshan without the other one, and this is basically these are the most obvious basics. Like, you could take you could take this, and how this would be the stepping stone, and this branch from this, and this branches from this, and this, and Amurta contradicts is in opposition to shareware in the sense of nature versus building, but also building can be understood as growing, as you can see a city as humanity building their own forests of buildings. It's kind of a weird interpretation, but it exists. I mean, it's a replication of nature in a sense. In fact, shareware deals with design and art in a sense. So basically, there's the element of humanity trying to replicate trying to replicate or represent nature in their works. So yeah, it's deep, I know. So where does live Retaohist and Haravatat? Well, Retaohist is illumination. It's basically the study of the stars, the universe, and mostly fate. Fate, as treated in Genshin, is like the ultimate end of all things. Like, Nahida and Rukkhadevata discuss fate being the ultimate knowledge. And I'm going to go into that later. Haravatat is semiotics, basically the study of language, scripts, and the truth, basically. Basically, language, scripts, and truth, critical thinking, oratory, connecting. Critical thinking is basically related to connecting the dots, which is amusing because if you see, when I pass this, when I scroll over Retaohist, the effect is is constellations, of course. Constellation is literally connecting the dots in another sense, which is amusing in terms of Haravatat being connected to it. so yeah, it's amusing that Haravatat is considered like. So here's the thing: in game, most students of the academia tend to be Sharwar, Bahumana, Amurta, and Spantamat. Or, so to speak, these are the most popular darshans. Then, Retaohist, we go by Layla. Layla's character story. Retaohist is probably the most difficult of the darshans to study. Like, Layla has so many issues in Retaohist because of the sheer amount of workload that this darshan demands. Meanwhile, Haravatat is regarded as the most boring of the darshans, and some people consider it the easiest to pass of the darshans, like as being considered the most boring and such. in games stated that Haravatat is the darshan with the least students. So they have a kind of like a connection as the least popular, in a sense, darshans, Haravatat and Retauhists. And it brings to mind how these things basically all of this stems from this and this, the roots and the finality. The canopy would be the pinnacle, but you have to start from the roots. The root of all things would be Haravatat, would be the truth, reality, how everything connects with everything. This connects with this, and this connects with this, and this is connected with this, and yeah, you get it. Fate starts would be the universe and fate. Fate is finality. That means it's kind of amusing because heavens usually tends to be associated with the divine, life, and stuff. Haravatat is like the underworld, associated with death and stuff. But fate is finality. You only know your fate once your life is over. And truth is the beginning of all things, is the connecting point of everything. So, but here you have this in the underworld and this in the heavens, so it's like contradicting their nature, like as in that which you would aspire, and that which would be. I kind of rambling again. It's kind of difficult to explain this. But in any case, so if you ask me, so I think I'm not going to say that Retauhist is like not important. I think all darshans are important, but the most important are these two in terms of Genshin lore, the way I see it. And we don't have in a sense, though, it's amusing because the whole Archon quest, at least until 3.2, basically had a confrontation between Haravatat and Retauhist. How? Because the whole plan was overthrowing the academia, right? And Grand Sage Asar, I don't know if you know this, he was from Retauhist, from the Retauhist Darshan. And it happens that the plan to overthrow the sages was brought by a scholar from Haravatat, that was Alhaitham. So you did have Haravatat versus Retauhist in this in the whole Archon quest, as of the truth fighting a strong or the truth surpassing fate. That's an really interesting theme, and yeah. So it's interesting also the name of, because, so here's the thing. I don't really want to go into, again, if you go check Wei's latest video on theory, it mentions Alhaitham and the Hive Mind in his story quest, right? So, as for what, well, you will have to check the video, but in that sense, the name of all of these of the booths, especially this one, and this one, Haravatat less so, because Haravatat is kind of self-explanatory. But these three, Amorta, Tauhist, and Kshawar, they become something to raise a number of eyebrows about the Hive Mind and what the theory was about. Of course, it's a theory. You don't have to take a theory crafter's word as gospel, but when it's well argumented and exposed as presented, sorry, sometimes my vocabulary, then you have to take it into consideration. And with that, I took this into consideration. and the pieces fit so well. Again, why Haravatat is so today I was checking the news on the live stream on 3.7, and there was the Inazuma characters, and then there was Alhaitham. Of course, there was the art of the characters that are coming in the next banners, But people were like, "Where does Alhaitham? Why is Alhaitham presented with the Inazuma characters?" Of course, this is not the reason, but there's a trend that I've been noticing. That's the subtle presence of Alhaitham in most of Sumeru content, even though you may not realize. Like, for example, in 3.5, there was the whole Caribur thing, and the mirror, the Shatter Mirror, and the twins. If you wanted to like, Kabe doesn't have so much of a mirror theme as Alhaitham does. Because Kabe's kit works like architecture and art. He doesn't really use mirrors in any form of, unless you can consider Merak's ability to project an image, like the projections of the Pulse of Alcazazare in Kabe's Idol, as a sort of a projection. But I'm talking about mirrors. Mirrors, especially Shatter Mirrors, are Alhaitham's sort of symbol, in a sense. You remember his demo, the shattering and the mirrors, the fact that he uses chisel light mirrors, the projections, shatter mirrors. The whole thing about the Caribur quest not only brings to mind the mirroring, like, when the traveler looks at themselves in the mirror and sees the other one, and of course you can take that as I think I mentioned this, like twin siblings representing the sun and the moon. That also is a theme between Alhaitham and Kabe, which is when people say you can't really, it's I don't know what the word I read someone saying that you can't understand Alhaitham and Kabe as siblings, and it's like, no. You like in Windbloom we have Sino and Dainari saying that they do have a sibling-like relationship, and that the academia way of the Sumeru's society tends to build familiar ties between those who work in the same project, and that's exactly what Alhaitham and Kabe did, even though it kind of went the way it went, So, but when people was like saying you can't call it siblings, and it's like, if you check out their designs, mirroring twins is such an overused trope. It's like absurd. It's like you're telling me how to read a mirroring characters. You're like, like, I don't know. It's like I could start counting how many solar and lunar twins, starting by Lumine and Ether, in mythology are, and that's basically the whole thing, the whole mirror thing. And in the Caribur quest, kind of, when I thought about that later in regards to Alhaitham and by extension Kabe, I guess, I was like, yeah, that's absolutely a thing. That's the mirror, your opposite twin on the other side of the mirror looking at you, and in another reality maybe being you. But aside from that, so here's let me see if Alhaitham is like feeling like indulging me, because I'm going to need one of his idols for this.
Wait.
No, he went for the keys.
Huh? No.
Okay, I'm fine.
Whatever.
whatever. I love it. Like, screw you, Gabby. I love bastard. Okay, so indulge me with your first title, Hatham, please. Here you go. So these words here, the words he picks in Greek, they're I know I have a video about this. I know someone actually translated the words.
Wait.
They're the Greek words for,
Whatever.
so basically, Hatham references Aristotle. Yeah, so there are three words used for the causes. So the four causes. One was now my brain is failing me. Final cause. Damn it. One is the final cause. That I think that one's Telos. The other one's Dynamos. The other is I don't actually remember. Final cause. Damn it. So here's the thing. Anyways, the causes basically of that the world is based on, right? So it's basically the deduction process, and an Aristotelian deduction process, and the terms for using for logical deduction, and understanding the world, right? So yeah, so that's the three words Al-Haytham picks up. It's interesting though. What's interesting is the letters he picks from each one of these words. E, L, M. So this is not absolute, you know? This is not really absolute, that E, L, M, it can mean many things. And I'm not saying that it necessarily has to mean anything in English. But I don't really know exactly. The person that first made this spoke about this, or at least the first person I saw speaking about this. It's about the elm tree. If you're going to go with English, the elm tree is associated in Greek mythology, tying with Aristotle. In Greek mythology, they're associated with death and the underworld. And if you check the event, and the darshans, the roots of the tree would correspond to, and if you take the black color as decay, and it's actually a fairly valid interpretation of black, decay and death, and this would correspond to the underworld. So even if we would take, even if like it doesn't necessarily have to be in English, it would match thematically, you know, as it's a tree, you have the roots, it's related to death, decay, and the color of the black color, and the underworld, and that's exactly where in this world tree simulation, so to speak, where Harvata displays it. So that's the thing. When you have a thought, you have to make sure that it's that's my cat, one of my cats. So you have to make sure that your basis is not deprived of it has solid foundation. So here's the thing. Why is this important? Because if we understand, like, again, referring to some theory videos about Wei's video in particular, talking about an eternal cycle of or a samsara in which the world is inevitably destroyed and it recreates for the next samsara, that would mean that the ultimate fate of all things is death, since the beginning is going to mark the beginning of a new samsara of life, right? So it if we are indeed trapped in essence, if Tevat is indeed trapped in a samsara of sorts, not necessarily a simulation, but a cycle of sorts, then the ultimate fate of everything is death, and that ties with Haravatat. And the truth of everything would be this that everything's a cycle and everything is meant to. The cause for everything in the world, if it's a simulation for the meaning or something, and this death is required to a new beginning, then the ultimate cause for everything, the final cause or ultimate cause for everything, that would be death. So I recall the person in the video saying that Al-Haytham's animation, Al-Haytham's idol, this one, was really creepy, as in, does Al-Haytham think that the cause for everything that happens in Tevat is death? Well, it's quite possible. It's actually quite possible. That's his line of reasoning. I mean, even if we were not taking the whole thing about the samsara theory as a basis for this, going by the dendro and by the his dendro element and he's quite a naturalist philosopher, like very much like Aristotle, really. He's not a philosopher on human nature. He's a philosopher on he does know, of course, of human nature, but Haytham is more about. I remember Siraj's line in his story quest saying that Haytham always had a distant look in his eyes when he's around people, and it's true, because Haytham's not really. He's part of humankind, but his mind is beyond. He barely pays attention to that, really. His mind is usually not. It's true. It's part of his thoughts, in a sense, but more from a standard point of nature, studying human behavior and human society from how a naturalist would, rather than anyone interested in social studies, you know? Al-Haytham is likely the most objective character inside Tevat, outside the Traveler, who is a descender and an outlander. But Al-Haytham is likely probably the most objective character you can find in terms of finding the truth without being part of. So here's the thing. Imagine this as the Matrix. You wouldn't know if you're inside the Matrix if you were born inside it, unless someone awakens you to it. Then the Traveler would be, for example, outside the Matrix. Like when Irmin's soul changes, the memories of the Traveler are not affected because they do not belong within the Matrix. Then the people inside the Matrix would be unaware that anything has changed when Irmin's soul data is altered. And then there would be the middle ground of being inside of the Matrix, but being aware that there's a Matrix, even though you can't escape. Like in Windbloom, we were introduced to the Hexen Circle, and Alice mentioning Nicole, the one who apparently knows that the truth of the world can be altered. Well, not the truth. The records of the world can be altered. And her guiding people to be wary of this. That would be one person. If there would be another who would be aware that there's more to, or at least makes the conscious effort to know that there's something bigger going on, that would be Al-Haytham. To what extent, I'm not sure, because he's a cryptic bastard, and he really does not reveal as much as he surely has in his mind. But there's some comments on him in the event. Like, you recall me, if you have watched me play in the event, second day. the first time he left the note to Kabe. The lofty ideals can't really do anything about nihilism, but little decisions can, maybe can. And then he proceeds to explain that the whole thing about the idealism. And then when you ask him in the third day, he elaborates a bit on the concept. Mostly in regards to the concept of idealism, of course. But the first line itself, that's a lore nuke. And because, like for example, when we were talking about fate, the ultimate fate of things, there's an ultimate fate that cannot be avoided in any way or in any form of shape, which is death. Death is the ultimate fate of every living thing. That's a natural law. That's something that you can't change. Everything in this world that exists, someday it will cease to exist and will be no longer. That's an ultimate truth. But in the terms of fate, remember that Kabe calls it egoism. I don't agree with that name. Al-Haytham's philosophy is not egoism, it's more individualism. It's about the individual and those and the other people close to them, not about the ego, the entire ego. There's a form of ego, of course, because it's about what do you care about, but that doesn't mean that you don't care about anyone but you. It's different. So that's why when Kabe says egoism, of course from Kabe's point of view, I understand why he would call that, but I would disagree in terms of objectively. Al-Haytham's philosophy is individualism. So, if we go by individualism and his philosophy, then the ultimate fate of things, the collective fate of things, if you want to associate Kabe with this, since his philosophy is rooted in altruism, which is the many, then then altruism is not going really to achieve anything in the bigger scope, right? Because the ultimate fate is like the ocean. You can't really change the ocean. What can you change? What you can change is the river, which is the course of the river you can change. It's in a lesser scope, of course, but you can change the course of your life's river in making little decisions. Maybe in this instance, and it will be about your life. You are powerless to move the ocean, but you can decide where your life's course is going to take you. That you can decide, and that's your individual fate. And that aligns perfectly with Haytham's philosophy of lofty ideals can't fight nihilism. Nihilism as in death is the ultimate end of all things, so why would you bother? But in terms of your own life and how you want to live your own life and the time you have in this world, then little decisions are absolutely the tool and the weapon to wield against nihilism. Because maybe everything is fated to die and vanish, but the time I'm here is important to me, and I choose how to live that time I have. It's deep and it's complicated, but and in terms of fighting fate, as in it's implied in the whole picture of Genshin Impact, that line was incredibly complex in terms of, and that's why it makes me think that how aware is Al-Haytham of how deep his thoughts. I mean, he may be. I'm not sure if he would be aware of how deep his words go, but that Al-Haytham is truly, definitely an extremely important lore character of that, each patch I'm more and more reassured that that's the case, and that's likely why I'm so fascinated with this character. And people only stop to see the surface of well, the shallow surface of the many reflections, the illusions that surround Alhaitham's character, thinking of him all the things that he is not. So yeah, that's actually what I wanted to talk about. So yeah, I actually got the reason. Okay, I'm not sure what I should be doing right now. I don't know if you want to bear with me even longer, because yeah, I kind of ramble a while about this thing, but there was a lot to ramble about it, to be fair. So, on that note, no, I'm going to save that one, but I'm going to save that one for other sort of for my written content. But on that note on Alhaitham, the hive mind, and Nahida's second story quest, the elementals, Apep, and the origin of life and stuff. There's a connection there too, but I'm just going to say to give you a hint. Apep's battle theme, the music. Yeah, that's where you will find the thread, even if it's not apparent at first. And that's all I'm going to say. So let's move away from lore discussion for the time being, and let's see what we may do. I mean, I could do resin thing. I mean, I could just tune out and do this thing on my own. And unless you want to watch me, burning resin. Because I don't really need anything here. I could farm from artifacts, but I do need the books. Okay, I think I'm going to do a few ley line things. And you can see me struggle, and then I will turn out. I basically wanted to speak many things, and I think I spoke too many things, as is my want. But the most important thing I wanted to talk about was the whole thing about the academia, the Parade of Providence, and that particular point on... Oh, that's my cat, sorry. That particular point. Because once the event is gone, then I won't have that composition anymore, and it was really useful to have it and explain it like on the spot, Otherwise, I would have to require a number of files and saved screenshots and all that. So yeah, I mean, I've done that other times, so it's not like I'm not used to hoarding files.
Scanning.
There you go. So it's not like I'm not used to that, but
Mind the side effects.
But still, 1, 2, there you go. But it's definitely more useful. 2, 3, 4. It's definitely more useful to. Oh, for fuck's sake! More useful to.
Come at me.
To have the whole thing like explaining on the spot. It's easier visually too, because if not, I would have to, go for the diagrams, pointing things out, marking things, which I don't I'm not saying I won't at some point to better illustrate my point, because trying to explain anything like vocally, you may have noticed that my thoughts are a bit too erratic sometimes because there's a lot I want to talk about, and so many connections, and I jump from here to there, and it can be really confusing. But I think it's kind of useful though to have this as a reference if I want to write something better later. Oh god. Kabe, you're really such a magnificent bloom driver. One, two, three, four. Go.
Sight clear.
I mean, yeah.
Gotcha.
I feel so bad whenever Baiju starts sprinting and starts coughing. I haven't done, like I said, I haven't done his story quest, but I know a bit of Baiju lore, and you kind of feel bad for him. If you hear things falling, that's my cats. I think they're demanding my attention, as cats are wont to do. But yeah. I really wish I could get my hands on Kabe's 6 constellation. Though I know it's not needed, but it's like it'll be the extra oomph for that, for the Bloom team. Since I go with purely Bloom. So yeah, there's that, and I have the Dendro damage artifact on him. Was that there? No, it's just Dendro slime. I'm actually really happy about how the Bloom team is shaping up to be. Of course, my favorite is my spread aggravate team, and there's my Hyper Bloom theme.
Busted.
But I'm still working on Hyper Bloom, and I'm really fine, to be honest with you. And I'm actually fairly... That was not the best Bloom I could have triggered. Anyways, what was I saying? 2, 3.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Sight clear.
So, what I was saying.
A bitter pill to swallow.
1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, sometimes I have to voice these things aloud, otherwise I don't concentrate.
Should replace my hammer.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, I to be fair, I prefer my spread aggravate team rather than my Hyper Bloom team. Maybe just because, yes, I've been told that for my for my aggravate team, instead of Raiden, I could use Miko, but I don't really have Miko well built. I have her with Thunder and Fury. Not sure how exactly. I mean, it's the thing with Miko is it makes me. I'm not sure if that's the. How should I put this? Since Alhaitham relies so much on the chisel light mirror times, and if you're in the burst windows sort of time. Sorry, excuse me a moment. Okay, sorry about that.
My latest design's getting there, but there's still room for improvement. Better make my finishing touches before the deadline creeps up.
So that's the thing. With Alhaitham's chisel light mirrors, it's like the doubt of where the totem, Miko's totem is going to. The totems are going to. Sorry, totems, turrets, whatever. when they're going to wear off, and that's why I kind of prefer Raiden for electro application. But I know, I mean, I've been told that Miko does the extra electro damage, but I don't know. I'm kind of reluctant to switch Raiden for Miko in
Busted.
on that
Mind the
on that
side
team.
effects. Come at me.
That's going to be a great balloon.
A bitter pill to swallow.
Sometimes I trigger Baisu's E twice. I don't know really why.
Quietly now.
Okay, that was kind of absurd, but fine. 1, 2, 3, 4. Baisu. Excellent. Oh, it's so satisfactory when Kabe pulls the Dendro Bloom. Okay. We're at 80. Fine. I think we can burn resin with books. Because I need them actually. I need to level up Kabe, and I will need to level up once I have ascended Milu and Baiju. 1, 2.
Busted.
With all my strength.
There we go.
Sight clear.
Okay, maybe
Watch and learn.
I'm not in the mood to deal. Oh, damn it. Okay, one gone. Go. Go, go, go.
Come at me. A bitter pill to swallow.
Gotcha.
I mean, I could.
Positions.
Sight clear.
Oh, damn it all. Okay.
Mind the side effects.
Quietly now.
Fine, that was close. Okay. So yeah, I went from a really long tirade on the academia and the Darshans, and now I'm onto nothing, I guess. I'm just burning the resin, and then I will call it a day, because there's some things that I really want. I could. Sometimes you kind of need someone else's, technically I could go over other people's theories, on stream, but I prefer to direct people to watch this content creators' own stuff, Okay. And there's that. Okay. So basically, yeah. For what I've been rambling about. For what I've been rambling about, you could check Ashikai's "Who's the Sinner" video and Wei's. I think the video is titled "The Biggest Plot Twist in Genshin Impact." So you can check these two,
Gotcha.
and that's basically the basis for my argumentation. Which, of course, since it's being theory and stuff, doesn't have to be true.
Come at
Or
me.
it doesn't have to be more than that. You don't have to take it as more than speculation. But I'm a low diver, and that's what I do. So,
Quietly now.
and in oh, that's my bad. In Genshin, when it comes to Genshin, fuck's sake.
Mind the side
When it comes to
effects.
Genshin, I'm still kind of getting acquainted, so to speak, with the lore and stuff. So I rely a lot on listening to other theory crafters and then adding my own insights.
Scanning.
Which, in truth, that's how theory crafters should usually work. Basically, there's no shame in admitting that someone else may have a better idea of what you're talking about, or that someone else may add something that you may have not thought about. Or the other way around, that you take the whole, you know, like when I watch other people and I'm like, huh, I didn't know this, and I hadn't noticed that, and then from that thread I can, you know, I can follow the thread and take my own spin. No pun intended, but that actually worked. But yeah, it's something that kind of when, like, in fine arts, that's my degree when I graduated in. We're taught not to. I mean, we're taught to be competitive, of course, but not in the sense of dismissing others' work, but rather learning from them and applying our own twist and maybe making it better. That's the competitivity in fine arts, which is rather brutal, to be fair, and not easy at all. But yeah. So it's basically the mentality, the healthy mentality when it comes to the arts. Well, I would say in everything, you basically learn from others. That there's no the biggest proof of foolishness and idiocy is believing that you is like not wanting to learn, believing that you have the answers, and that's absolutely not
Mind the side
the
effects.
case. Pride is a complicated thing. One thing is being proud of. Pride is. Pride is. So let me put it this way. Pride is absurd. There's no need for pride to feel proud of. There's no need to feel pride. What we actually do, what's actually important is our dignity. And of course, when people say I'm proud to be whatever or whoever I am, that's more like self-acceptance than pride, I guess. Unless you're parading around, of course, and you're parading around, and then you're kind of defying the purpose of. I don't know. I'm just a fan of laying low and not disclosing much of who I am or what I am, because in the end it's mostly about who I am. And do I have reasons to be proud of who I am? Depends. I don't really have any reason to be proud, but nor I have reasons to be ashamed of who I am. So it's kind of this neutral position. It's kind of weird, and people often forget that the middle ground exists. Neutrality is a thing. By being something, you don't have to oppose to the other. You don't oppose to the other thing. Like, I'm not that, or I don't agree with this, but that doesn't mean I completely oppose this thing. It's just not my thing, you know. And that's a big thing. That's a big source of bad blood in our current times, I would say. Like, I think that was a good lesson from this event. Like, yeah, I don't agree with you, but I do respect you. You live your life, and that's fine. I don't have to, you know, I don't need that to. I don't necessarily have to agree. I mean, I have acquaintances and friends in which, in terms of, I don't really want to say ideology because I don't want to tie myself to any sort of ideology. I want to feel free to change my opinion whenever I want. So I don't adhere to ideologies. I just say, this I agree with, this I don't, basically. And I prefer to take the good things I see from different sort of opinions and not marry with anyone, basically, and with any of them. Because I want the freedom to, if in any moment, in any given moment, I change my opinion, and not feel that thing like, but I am X or Y, you know. So that's my way of looking at things, basically. I'm kind of rambling about myself now, so. It's a good thing that I'm about. It won't be long before you won't have to suffer me for the rest of the day. Now I'm going in ramblings about myself. Sometimes sometimes it's uncanny how I do actually remember because I'm not really talking about myself. I'm talking about my way of thinking. About myself, I'm not sure I actually have talked about myself, and I don't really plan to talk about myself because first, it's not important. Second, it's it's anyone's business. so yeah. People think they talk about themselves when they talk about their way of seeing life or their ideologies, or they're not really talking about themselves per se. They're basically repeating other people's opinions, myself included, since even any sort of thought, I'm going to check my teapot, any sort of thought is in the end is something that likely someone else has thought before. That's how humans like. We act, we behave according to imitation. Art is a form of imitation. Language is a form of imitation. So yeah, I went for art and language, like as I changed teams from Cavian to Alhaitham. Yeah. That's amusing. Anyways.
This realm is...
Okay, that's not much. Oh, but I got them to level 5. That's interesting. Yeah. Have I unlocked anything about them? I know I have not unlocked lines, but I may have. There's character story. Okay, I will read. I mean, I have read them, but still, it's cool to have them anyways. So I don't have to go search for that. I will still have to go search for that actually. Be it in game or be it in the database. Okay, so I'm going to stay here. I burned my resin. Maybe I can level up Kabe. Maybe 1 level or 2. Okay, let's see. There you are. Yeah, I do. Give me a moment.
Where's my
The key, poor thing.
not again?
Okay, 2 levels, that's fine. Maybe next round I can get him to level 90. That's great. Okay. So, what I was saying, so yeah, that's. I'm going to leave it at this point. I am sorry about the technical difficulties and having had to split the stream into. Sorry about that. It happens. But yeah, I will be streaming Baiju's Story Quest. Not sure when. Likely next week. Not sure which day, but I want to go into that on stream and offer my insights. I do, from what I know of Baiju's lore, I know that I'm likely going to encounter another form of opposing ideals, which was the big theme for this patch. And yeah, and I'd say that would be all. So yeah, basically, yeah. I'm changing. If you say changing to the character screen is basically to not have the idols messing around. So yeah, so yeah. So like I said, I will. Anyways, I mean, I will notify on Twitter. You can follow me if you want, and when I will be streaming next next time, and yeah, I also in my Twitter drop my insights on stuff and retweet accounts that go on lore and that if you're interested in lore and stuff. So yeah, and so yeah, there's nothing promotion to content creators never is never out of line. It's kind of a struggle to be a content creator of any sort. So yeah. Aside from that, so yeah, that would be the end of the stream. I really hope you enjoyed. You can catch me in my Twitter. You can catch me next time in live. You can catch my VODs if you don't have the patience to deal with me right now, or you're interested in one point, or well, whatever. You know how it works. So yeah, I will be back for Baiju's Story Quest. So have a good night or day or whatever, and a fine weekend, and